Welcome to the Behind the Spine podcast, where we go beyond the cover and into the heart of every story. I'm Latoya Guillory, certified master mindset and author coach and founder of The Intentional Author. This space is for writers, authors, and creatives who are ready to move past fear, self-doubt, and perfectionism and step fully into their purpose. Here we talk about the real journey of writing and publishing, the mindset, the discipline, the lessons, the breakthroughs, and the stories that don't always make it onto the page. Each episode brings you honest conversations, practical strategies, and powerful encouragement to help you write with intention and publish with confidence. Show up boldly as the author you were created to be. So grab your notebook, your favorite drink, and a quiet moment for yourself. Let's go behind the spine and into the story.
Kelda Laing Poynot is a name that resonates with inspiration, creativity, and commitment to education and personal growth. As an award-winning author, Kelda enchants readers and serves as a beacon for aspiring writers. Beyond her literary accolades, Kelda is an educator and homeschool consultant whose innovative approaches to learning have transformed the educational experiences of countless students. Her passion for education extends beyond the traditional classroom setting as she actively engages in life coaching and writing coaching, guiding individuals through their personal and creative endeavors. Kelda Laing Poynot's dedication to helping others reach their full potential is evident in every aspect of her work, whether through the pages of her novels and nonfiction insightful educational programs or empowering coaching sessions. Kelda is guiding light for many. Her commitment to nurturing growth, fostering resilience, and inspiring excellence in others makes her not just an author, but a true mentor and champion for personal growth. I don't just help
Hello
people
everyone.
write
Welcome
books.
to another
I help
episode
you
of my
build
Behind the
something
Spine
that works
podcast.
for
I'm
you
your host,
long
Latoya
after
Guillory.
the book is
I
done.
have with us
Because
my
your book should
beautiful
open
writer
doors
friend, my
to
author
create
friend.
opportunities,
She's an author
position
coach
you
and
as the
also an
authority you
educator, Miss
already
Kelda
are.
Poynot.
That's the difference
She is
between
the author
just being
of
an author
Tribesmen
and
and
being
a bunch of other
intentional
books.
about
So I
what
wanted to
your
introduce her
book
to you
is.
guys. Hi, Kelda.
If you're ready
Hi,
to
I'm
do
so
more
happy to
than
be
just
here.
publish,
Thank you.
if you're ready
I am
to
so
build
happy to be
something
here
that
too. Now, Kelda, we
aligns
met
with your
some years
purpose and
ago.
your
Gosh,
vision,
man,
visit my
about 6-7
website
years
and
ago.
let's take a look
In a
at
writing,
how we can work together.
and you have been
Don't
my
just
writer
write
now
a
ever
book,
since.
leave a legacy.
Ever since. I'm so glad Thank
to
you for
have
spending
crossed
this time with me on the
When
Behind
did
the
you
Spine
realize
podcast.
that you wanted to be
a writer? If today's episode spoke to
I
you,
don't remember
take
a
a
time
moment
when
to
I didn't
subscribe,
write.
leave a
Like, I don't
review, and share
remember
it with your fellow
learning
writer
to write.
who needs the
Does that make
encouragement.
sense? Like,
For
even
more
as a
support,
child, like, I
resources, and
remember
ways to
just
work together,
even
visit
finding notebooks with just
theintentionalauthor.com
lines
and connect
scribbled
with
in
me
them,
on
like I
social.
was filling them
Remember,
with words.
your story
Just my
matters,
whole life.
your voice is
So
needed,
even as a
and your
very young
book
child,
deserves to be written.
I just
Until
have
next
always
time,
written.
stay intentional
My mom
and keep writing.
wrote copiously, studied and wrote, and never published, but she prepared a lot and journaled a lot. And so it just, I think, I did the same. Like, I just don't know a time. So, but as far as like a writer to share my words with others, I was a grown up, like in my 40s, before I was ready to share my words in a way that I felt, I could trust it. I could trust that with someone else.
Yeah. It's like giving your baby away.
It is, my friend would always call it my word baby. And she would cradle my manuscript, like just the most lovingly. I'll take care of your word baby. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
So what inspired you to write your first book?
I have had, first of all, I've written fiction and nonfiction, published fiction and nonfiction, but I never imagined myself a fiction writer. I was nonfiction. I have had 3 titles in my heart for so many years. I've had these 3 titles, carried them around, and then it just started writing and accumulating the words. And maybe it would be a quote or a line from a poem or a line from a song or a scripture, and it would just stir thoughts. And that's really how my first book came to be. call Their Heart's Home, was just little antidotes, more like you could study it in a group. You could read it with friends and then little questions at the end and that kind of thing. Like not really a Bible study, but kind of a book study. And so I just never imagined myself like that. But when the words start flooding out and you have a way to organize them, and you're getting all of those words out onto paper or into the computer. And I mean, I know that I wrote my first book on my BlackBerry phone, like in notes. And then when I had time, I would email them to myself and begin transcribing. And I had no idea how that was going to be published. I had no idea how I was going to get those words out into the world. But you just learn as you go. You pay attention, you ask questions, you find other writer people that you are acquainted with, and you just start that path. But then the fiction came several years later, probably about 6 years after that, after I had published my first nonfiction. I was working on my second nonfiction. And then I was facilitating a novel writing class with a group of students, and I began writing alongside them. And the story began to unfold. That story is now a 4-novel series that has yet to be published, but I'm getting closer to finishing this 4-part series. But that's just like that I began that story in 2016. So almost a decade I've been in that world with these characters. And so, and seeing them through, many trials. And so that began unfolding just because I was doing exercises, again, never thinking that I was going to write fiction. And then the conversations and the settings and when they're talking to you in your head, if you've never written fiction, if they start talking to you in your head and you don't write down their words, they don't let you sleep. So that was something that I just began the process of, I don't know where this is going, but I'm going to do the work.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'll never forget when you told me that. Like, these people just keep talking to me. And I'm just...
Because I think we met right as I was maybe publishing my first novel, Sweet Caroline. Okay, so that was my second. So that was my second. So I had just published Impact, my first novel. And then I wrote Sweet Caroline and its companion Dawes I wrote Sweet Caroline in like 6 months, and Dawes was like 3. The fastest I have ever written anything. It was just bam. Yeah.
Man, that's amazing.
I know. And I don't do this full time. This is just my fun. This is like, I still have real life and work and all the things, and the story won't stop.
So you're an author coach. Tell me, what are your go-to platforms to publish on and edit on and all of those things? Because you've even with like audiobook editing and all things as well. So tell us.
Okay. So I have only self-published through Amazon. That is my go-to. I take that back. I have through Ingram Sparks, because at the time I wanted a hardcover book with a beautiful jacket and the whole thing. And so that was the only place I could get that particular book published, which was Autumn's Captive. It had a whole vibe. So we wanted to go with that. With the jacket and the inside with your picture, we had a mind of what this was going to look like. But now you can get good hardcovers from Amazon. So there you have options now that I didn't have, when in 10 years ago, even maybe 5 years ago, even. So I have published through both, but majority is published through Amazon. Like you said, I've done all of my audiobooks. So except for one book, it's all on audio. And then also the digital, through Kindle, all of that is under that same umbrella. And so I have found that extremely user-friendly. Yes, I've watched many videos on how to do things. And yes, the audio editing is a very technical skill, but you can do it with minimal knowledge and minimal investment of a microphone. I now record in my closet because my clothes absorb all the sound when I'm recording. So there are ways to do this super economically. I have had paid people to edit my words. I have paid people to audio narrate because I would never be able to do that particular voice, especially if it's from a man's perspective. I need to hire people. I'm not a man, so I need to hire people to do that audio for me. And I also have had an incredible amount of help with my covers from my daughter-in-law is my cover designer, so she does all of my images and book photos and all of those things. But I have but I would be willing to pay real money for those services beyond, we're all in the family together. So that's, those are the things, but that's the go-to for me is self-publishing. I attempted at first with my first novel to query it to agents and to query it to publishers that were taking open submissions who didn't require an agent. After about 18 months of that and sending it out and just receiving rejection, or crickets, no response at all. I sat down with a friend. My sister-in-law was like, hey, my friend publishes her children's books on Amazon. And I had listened to a couple of other writing coaches and people who were very much advocating for self-publishing and said, you don't have to do it this way. Here, we have alternatives. And you just start listening to that and get stirred. And I'm like, yes, we can totally do this. Now, I was in isolation in the senses that I hadn't really built my community. But now that I have a community of fellow writers who have self-published, traditionally published, I help them with their audio. I help them, I encourage them if they haven't really gotten anywhere with an agent or with traditional publishing or even hybrid publishing, here, let's take this avenue. And so that's my go-to. And like, even now I write a template that comes from Amazon, from the, their umbrella, and KDP is their umbrella. And so I have a template that I download, and I will probably publish in 6x9 book format forever because I just start writing in that now. If I have a story idea, if I start compiling things, that's just where I put all my information, is in this template that's already, my pages are numbered. It tells me where to put the table of contents. It tells me where to put the about the author at the end. It has all the components already set up for me. And I don't have to think. I don't have to reinvent that wheel. I don't have to take it from a standard document and put it over into, a publishing document. It's already there for me. And so I know that's because I've done this so many times that I just know that this is my process. And so so I just want to make it as simplified as possible for writers who have an idea that they want to publish. Well, let's figure that out and just make it as simple and streamlined as possible.
Absolutely. And that's the main reason why I wanted to do this podcast, is because I wanted to show people that it's not as hard as it looks. It may feel daunting, but it's just because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But once you know and you become a writer for the first time, you're always a writer.
Yeah.
You've put out 10 books so far. Right.
Okay. But let me, there is a caveat to that. Okay, my friend, there is. Because when I wrap up a project and then I'm starting with a new project or a different project, I don't know anything again. Like I look at my shelf and I see my books and I'm like, no, but I just still don't even know what I'm doing. But so there is still some doubt. There's still a little hesitation. Yes, I've done it. And then I have to have that talk with myself of, yes, I'm a writer. I've done this. I can do it again. Like it, and I'm embarrassed. If you could see the Post-it notes that I have like on this side of me, that's like this is how you edit this kind of audio thing. Hit these buttons. Like it's like
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. Or it's these are the words you need to put at the beginning of your book for this. And so
Yep.
because we don't do it every day, it's not our normal.
And we're
So
we're developing and we're becoming better after each project, right? So
yes,
it's kind of like, I write this book. What did I learn from writing this book?
right.
That I could do better in the next book kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have all these post-it notes that are reminding you, edit this way. Don't say it this way.
Okay, I have capital and capital. Okay. I murderlesque it all the time. I can't even get those words. The other one is furrowed, like you furrow a brow,
Mhm.
like your furrowed brow, or furled like a flag. Like I don't even want to tell you how many times I used that wrong in my first book. Like I once would have been way too many times.
Yeah.
So those are the things that why do I have them as post-it notes up here? It's a thing. It's a thing. But am I confident enough yet to really take those post-it notes down? No, not yet. Not yet. Maybe 20 books, I'll take the post-it notes down. I'll know then. I'll know then.
And then you got to think about like the writing process is you're basically doing project management, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're your own project manager, and there's a lot that really does, even though it is a simple process, so to speak. There
Mm-hmm.
is a lot going on in the process, especially when you have characters speaking to you
Yes.
that don't go to sleep, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's hard to remember those things that you did in the beginning when you get to the end and to a
Right.
new project. And so those post-it
Right.
notes are, they're golden. To say, oh, I'll remember this from 20 books ago. Well, not. So you
No.
mean you have to do what you have to do for you, and however you learn, whatever
Right.
works for your writing process, it works for your writing process.
It
Nobody
does.
has to judge you.
Nobody said.
Nobody
Right.
can judge you.
No.
It speaks for itself.
There is a really good book called Project Management for Writers by a
Mhm.
man named Terry Stafford, and he and I did our writing coach training together. And he was a project manager like for NASA. He knows some stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, I I encouraged him when we were going. I was like, please put this book on audio for me. It's just for me. He did it for me. It's out there. Everybody can listen to it. But it was very informative, and he talks about that of saying, okay, go step by step by step, so that you can repeat this process um without the stumbling blocks that you may have had initially. Like once you get to the thing, write it down, and so that it's repeatable.
Yeah. Yeah. And most of our steps are. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say was like the most challenging part of your writing journey? I know every project is different, but like,
Oh gosh. Okay. The most challenging for me, I think, was trusting my words to share with someone.
mm,
That was really, really, really hard, especially with my fiction. Well, initially with my first nonfiction book, and I remember reading it aloud. Um, in like kind of like a dark, like I was reading it off the screen from my laptop in our dark bedroom, like I'm in a confessional, right? And I'm reading it to my husband who's listening to me. And I'm not really quick with a rebuttal or, I don't always think best on my feet. I have to process it and kind of like mull it over a little bit. And so sometimes I'm sure that he would think I wasn't paying attention or I wasn't really in the moment, you know? But I was
mm-hmm,
observing and I'm taking it all in, but I just hadn't processed some things out. So we're laying in there, and after I read the very beginning of my writings that I think is going to be a book, right? There's dead silence. Okay, he's either fallen asleep or he hates it. Like that's just what, like, I want to cry because I don't know. And he just exhales and he goes, oh my gosh, you're a writer. Like I mean, how long have we known each other? How long had we been married at this point? And he goes, oh my gosh, you're a writer. Like it validated everything.
Yeah.
But sharing those words with trusted people is hard enough. But now to share them, I put my books in competitions where total strangers are going to review my books. Total strangers are going to rank them and give me feedback. Oh my gosh. Like that is hard. Is it getting
Yeah.
easier? Maybe. I don't know yet. I'll keep you posted. It's I know I need to do this. I know it needs to be critiqued, but it is challenging to say the least. But I think as far as the mechanics and the technical parts of the publishing has really been on the other side of publishing where we're trying to get the word out that we actually have these books.
Yeah. So how do you navigate that? Like, how do you navigate putting it out there in the world? There's these ARC readers and beta readers and
Hmm. Right.
all of the different people that are going to look at that and these
Hmm.
award competitions. You've done a lot
Hmm.
of award competitions and things of that nature. How do you personally navigate the
Right.
fear putting
Right.
it out?
Well, I'm confident enough now that I can write, and I've been that that's been confirmed with each project, and you only get better as you hone your skill. You only improve. But if no one ever sees your work, how do you know where the gaps are?
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
know where the things are that need to be improved?
Yeah.
So, um, I have had two friends, well, besides my husband, maybe one or two friends that's really read everything I've written. One friend primarily has written nearly everything I've written. And they know they can be honest. They know they can tell me where there are gaps, where they have questions. And when it comes to beta readers, like especially my newest book, Tribesmen, it's from a young man's perspective, from a 15-year-old boy's perspective. Um, and it's men. It's all about men. There's two female characters, a mom and a grandmother figure. Those are the only two women in the whole story. And I needed men to read my book and give me feedback and tell me where it gapped, where I needed to put more in. What I have it? Do I have it from your perspective? I want to be respectful of
Yeah.
this. And oh my goodness, I'm so thankful for all of the men. Now, a handful of women read those books also, but the men who read it were so helpful in giving me the insight. And one young man, he was probably 13 at the time, that read it, and it was very insightful. Their feedback was insightful, and I did need to make some changes, and I did need to ask some questions, and of my own writing, and of the story and of the characters to make it as the best it could be that I was
Yeah.
capable of making it. Um, but yeah, I would say find other, not just your besties. Start there because they're gonna tell you honestly. They're gonna
Mhm.
say, "Hey, yeah, friend." But you can't, like if my mom had read my first words, oh, this is wonderful, this is great.
Yeah.
Like she can't be objective. Like think about the people who can't be objective, right? In
Yeah.
your life. Yes, you can let them read it, but don't expect an honest critique of what you give them to read, whether it's an essay or a paragraph or a chapter, it doesn't matter. Um, you need it from someone who's a little more objective. And
Yeah.
that's where I think a writing group, writing other writers that understand what you're trying to say and who can give you really good feedback on how
Yeah.
to improve it, not just, well, okay, that was nice or good job. No, I need and sometimes you have to give them the questions to answer.
Yeah.
Like where, and I've written a few books that are like YA teen, and I'm like, where is any of this cringy? Like Does any of this make you uncomfortable? You know, if there's intimacy scenes, if there's like you know, things that if they're arguing, you know, is or if there's any kind of conflict, does it make you uncomfortable in a way that you don't want to read any further, or just in a way that you want them to resolve? You know,
Yeah.
like you want them to have some feeling and to feel really good. Like the first book, the impact when I was writing it, I shared it with my small group girls. I read like the first chapter. And, you know, at the time they were in high school, it wasn't anything weird. I just was reading. And so half the girls are like, is he a predator? Is he dangerous? And the other half are like, oh my gosh, he's so sweet. He's wonderful. But they were drastically opinionated and strongly expressing their views. And one little girl in the middle, and she goes, you know what this means, Miss Kelda? And I was like, what? Because I'm like, no, he's good. Like, I want to confirm, like, you know, he's good. Because I wasn't objective enough at that point to sit back and say, oh, I can see where that would feel creepy of him saying the things he's saying if you don't know the context, right? And so the one neutral girl, she says, um, yeah, this just means that you've written something that stirred them and that they're already invested in the first chapter.
Smart girl.
Wow.
Girl.
I was like, okay, so I should continue. And they're like, yes, continue. So it's just, but we need that support and that
Yeah.
validation along the way. Mine wasn't the most traditional route to become a writer. And so I have relied on these young people in my life, my own children, you know, my students, to give me feedback in ways that have been brutally honest. Like even to the cover font or even to the whatever, like they're like, no. So and
So what
I'm
I hear
thankful
you
for that.
saying, what I hear you saying is that constructive feedback or putting yourself out there into these areas, you know, these competitions and what have you, can help you be a better writer.
Absolutely.
So do it scared.
Do it scared.
Do
Do
it
it
scared.
scared, you know? Do it scared. Fear and resistance are real. They're big, real personified things that like stand up and, you know, sometimes feel like they're blocking the door.
Yeah.
But you gotta walk through them, around them, under them, something. So
Yeah, I
yeah, do
love
it scared.
do it scared. How has becoming a self-published author changed your life?
Oh my gosh. It feels amazing. It
Mhm.
feels amazing. I I think I read a statistic that said 4% of writers actually ever complete and publish a work.
Wow,
4%.
that's not
So
a lot.
I didn't want to be someone who said, I want to write a book. I can say, I want to write a book. You can say that. But I didn't want to be a person who got stuck there.
Yeah.
And if you have a story in your
Yes.
heart and you're carrying this with you, and as a woman of faith, I believe that is a big, heavy piece of the Holy Spirit nudging me forward. Okay. That's my take on it. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but I believe that this is what I've been called to do, is to
Yeah.
share these stories. I don't know where they come from. Now the nonfiction I know where that comes from. I'm all over that. That's real, that's basic, right? But the fiction, I don't know where all those ideas come from. And so I am practicing obedience to get those stories, that content, that dialogue on paper.
Yeah.
So, you know, how has it changed me? I think it's freed me into a creative outlet that I just, a sense of accomplishment, confidence, encouragement for other people who have that same desire, that I can I can say, all right, come on, link arms with me. We're gonna, we're gonna do this together. You
Yeah.
know, I remember a phone call several years ago when I was muddled in a piece of the book, and you and I are just having a conversation. This is long before you decided to become a writing coach, and you coached me by just asking simple questions about, well, what's happening? Give me a little background. You don't know anything about this story, but you listened and you asked questions, and I got through it and I finished the book.
I love that.
I know. And it was just a conversation we were having. And you're like, how's it going? And I was like, I'm really kind of just stuck in this thing. They're imaginary friends. They don't really exist, but they're conflict and their issues. And like, I don't know. I don't even know who the real, um, you know, uh, like the villain is in this story. And you're like, well, could it be both? Or could it be, I don't remember what you asked me, but the
Yeah.
light bulb went off and I'm like, oh, there's more than one. Like it was
Uh-huh.
just a conversation. And no, you don't write fiction, but that doesn't mean one day an idea might not come to you and you're going to call me and go, Kelda, I got these people. They are talking in my head and I need some help. But it's okay. It's okay. They may never. They may never. They go, no, I'm not going to your head. But they camp out a lot. But it's those kind of conversations that I think that if we don't, people who have at least a glimpse of what it is like to write,
Mhm.
and I have friends who are poets. I will never write poetry without the help of AI. Okay, I'm just going to say that out loud. I am not a poet ever yet, maybe, I don't know, but I'm not. But I have friends who are poets that still understand the writing process.
Yeah.
And seeing a project to completion. And I think that that's been the most, for my children, oh my goodness, to see their mom go through this process and become and set that goal and attain it again and again and again. And they've been with me every step of the way.
Yeah.
How awesome for our children, our family members, our spouses to see us accomplish something that is so close to our heart. and
Yeah.
not and not and do it afraid, like you just said, like do it scared, like do it shaking in your shoes. You can do it. But now to be on the other side and be able to help other writers or other creatives, because I believe we're kind of all in this big bubble
Yeah.
together. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun. I love that part.
What do you want people to take away from your writing?
Hope.
Mm.
um my characters all have to fight for something.
Mm.
There's always that internal conflict. There's always that, it might be an external conflict too. There might be a big boogeyman or something that they got to go fight, but they also mature and they have a peace about themselves. And I do write quite a bit of rite of passage of one stage of life to another. So I think that hope and encouragement is probably my I want them to be, um, drawn into a story. I want them to have some sense of satisfaction about the story and be entertained if it's a novel, or even be entertained if it's my nonfiction too. You can still be entertained by nonfiction. But just to have that sense of, that it wasn't a waste of their time to read my
Yeah.
words.
Yeah. I love it. Who would you say your ideal readers are?
Oh, it depends on the project. It
Yeah.
depends on the project, because my ideal reader for Tribesmen are like 10 to 17-year-old boys for
Mhm.
this project. That nobody else is, they're not going to read anything else I write.
Yeah.
My nonfiction is definitely geared toward moms and homeschoolers and parenting teens, right? Like, that young mama heart in home. And but then my novels are more adult, romance, intrigue, suspense, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
that YA angst,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. comes into play. It depends on the story. It depends on
Yeah.
the story.
So let's talk about Tribesmen a little bit. That was your
Okay.
latest book that just
Mm-hmm.
came out late
Yes.
last year. Let's tell the audience what that book is about and what you want them to learn from that book.
Okay. That book came to me, as many of my ideas do for the fiction, that you kind of wake up and you have this fusion of ideas. And so I was thinking of like Jungian archetypes, like male archetypes of fisherman, hunter, warrior, believer, scholar, like all of these deep rooted, um, just what Carl Jung described as being the knowledge that we all
Mm-hmm.
come into this world having. If you've studied any kind of psychology, it's that. And the virtues and how they
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, how would they go together? So fishermen would teach patience. Scholar would teach the importance of gaining, knowledge and assessing knowledge. And believer would talk about faith practices and, you know, just having these archetypes, but now they're personified. So now they're real men. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know how this story was going to unfold, but it's the year after this young man turns 15 and he's sent away to live with primitively in a campsite, learn independence, learn how to take care of himself. And he spends about a month with each of these tribesmen who are elders, who
Yeah.
are these archetypes. And so he spends, he starts with fishermen so that he can feed himself. So he can go fish every day and feed himself, right? And then he goes spend time with you know, scholars. So he goes and learns how to, really study and gain knowledge. And each one of these he spends time with to learn these virtues.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, elder is the lead tribesman, and elder gives him a test at the end of this. And so I wrote this story with short chapters intended for, these middle school boys, early high school aged boys, so that, because you might hit a reluctant reader in that age range. And so I didn't want them to be like big old chapters. Um, And I really geared it more toward just a story of a rite of passage. And then at the end of that writing, I was very convicted that this was, excuse me, that this was something that was not very meaty. It was
Mm-hmm.
too sweet and simple. And there wasn't a whole lot of, um, you know, really good stuff in there that was deeper than just it's not a silly story. It's a good story. But
Yeah.
there needed to be something else. So between the chapters, I introduce personified vices like procrastination and temptation and fear. Fear has its own page. Um, Lust. Uh, I talk about thievery. I talk about folly, these vices that we are warned against in every good, wise words in the universe. And I woke up like in just a fit in the middle of the night. And I wrote down all the vices I could think of because you know how you just are so convicted in your heart and you have to, you know.
Yeah.
And then all I could think about, there's a song that says, "Hello, my name is regret." There's a line in the song that says, "Hello, my name
Yeah.
is regret." You know that
Yeah.
song.
That's all.
And so I was just imagining all of these vices sitting in a self-help room with their little name tags on of "Hello,
Mm-hmm.
my name is temptation, procrastination, whatever," and how much they might introduce themselves and how a young man might be able to recognize them as truly a vice because they don't always look like vices, do
Yeah.
they? They're
Yeah.
sneaky.
That's true.
They come
Yeah.
in and they worm their way in and like, hey, let me let you know. And then at the end, the end of this page, it's just one page, double space. It's not a lot, okay?
Yeah.
Powerful, but it's not a lot. And then at the end, it says, "This is how you combat me. This is the only way you can overcome me." And watch out if I get my cousins over here and bring these guys in here as well.
Yeah.
At the same time, because then we're in big trouble. So that's what I think makes the meat of it.
Yeah.
Now, as an educator, as someone who works with young people, led numerous groups, youth groups, all kinds of things, I know the importance of having study questions and maybe activities to do. And so I put together the companion, but I call it an intergenerational companion for lads, the boys, men, and elders. Because I believe that intergenerationally, we need grandpas, uncles, dads, cousins, brothers. We need these people in community to really hit home on these topics. And as much as I love my sons and as much as I love the young men in my life, I am not going to be as impactful. I have limitations because I am not a man. And so I want them to have a tool. Here, I have gift wrapped it. Here, take it, use it to your best abilities. But they don't have to think of a question if they want to read it, with a group of boys. If they want to, even the biggest surprise that came down for me sharing this book with men as my beta readers. I call them my alpha readers because, they're males. And I felt like they're not technically alpha readers, but I'm going to call them alpha readers. They came back to me and they were like, and this was my husband's response at the very beginning too. You realize this isn't just for boys, Kelda. And I'm like, yes, it is, because that is who my audience, like, I am adamant that I did not write this to tell men anything. But the feedback that I received was that as a man, some of them now as elders, that, we're in a different stage of our lives as grandparents now, how powerful that they could see themselves in the different roles of this story. And that I was not expecting. I was not expecting that at all. When I gave them this story, hey, read it as if you're a middle school boy. And get back to me. And that is not the response I received at all.
Wow.
So that was the part that, okay. And I've even had, some people say that they might read it with some man friends, like in their small group kind of setting. And so that's an encouragement.
Yeah, for sure. Man, this book is going to be something else. And when Lafayette and surrounding areas get wind of
I hope so. Yes.
It's going to be something else. So the last question I have for you, I always want to bring it back to our audience. I want you to encourage them. Our audience are people who have a story in their heart, have a story in their mind. Like you said, that 4% that who have all of these stories, but never published or have said, oh, I don't know, where to start and all that. How would you encourage them to begin to write and get their stories into the hands of
I like
people?
this question. And I'm going to maybe take it from two different sides. One is get the words out of you. Write and write and write. And it doesn't matter if it's the roughest of roughest drafts and we have a sacrificial burning of it later. That's okay. But we need to get the words out so that we know what to do with it. If we're just carrying it around with us and we're just talking like, oh, I really want to write this story about it, that please get the words out of you in whatever typing, writing, get them out of you so that we can actually see it and see, is this going to be an essay? Is this going to be a series of podcasts? It may not be a book. It may not be a book.
Yeah.
But it still may need to be published in some way. So let's at least get it out of us so that maybe you can get some help and figure out what you're supposed to do with those words.
Right.
And it may be, it may be just like I said, a podcast. It may be supposed to be a screenplay? Who knows?
Yeah.
We
Who
don't know
knows?
until we get them out and let somebody
Who
else's eyes look at them and
knows?
hear them and really
Yes.
see them for the value that they are.
Right.
The other thing is the other side of that, where to begin. If you are not, like I said, I have written my entire life. I don't know a time when I didn't use that as an outlet for processing, journaling, whatever that looks like for you. If you have not practiced writing, then let's hone the skill of writing.
Mm,
Let's learn from, by either reading and reading and reading, being an avid reader in that genre of where you think it's going to be, to know how to relay your story in a way that's going to draw your audience in. That's going
yeah.
to that's really a powerful storytelling technique. I'm one of my goals this year is to listen to all of Stephen Pressfield's nonfiction books about writing or about creative pursuits. If you're not familiar with him, he wrote The War on Art. Fantastic book. I've listened to it on audio just on repeat, like for months and months. Okay. Now I'm making my way through several of his other books because I didn't know he had other books. And I am now listening to No One Wants to Read Your SH asterisk T. Okay,
Nice.
that's the title of the book. Holy cow. Holy cow, convicting. Okay. Of just why we need to make our writing as good as possible.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to hear other writers talk about that. I have listened to Stephen King's On Writing book numerous times. I wish this man would have been my English teacher. Now, I had already published 2 or 3 books before I listened to his book. And so now I'm like going, well, that's why I'm a better writer now, not just because I've written hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words, but that I've listened to how to make it better.
Yeah.
I have practiced some of these stylistic word choices. Don't
Yeah.
use this word, don't use that word. And as an English teacher with students, I don't let them use very. I don't let them use a lot. If you have too many ly words or ing verbs, no. So I know how to help students write. Now I've got to listen to myself. Like, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so hone the skill, practice writing, really get good at the craft of writing because it is a muscle, right? That we have to exercise. But in the other sense, get it out of you while you're honing your skills and practicing so that we can assess where this needs to be. And maybe it's just a book that you put together for your grandbabies. Like maybe this is just a story that you publish for your immediate family, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not something that the masses need to know about.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not something that, the likelihood of us becoming a bestseller author is like that's 4%. No, I'm kidding. It may be negative 2%. I don't know. I don't know those statistics. But if you have a story inside of you, if you have something that to share, if you're feeling compelled that these are words that need to be put out there, then get them out there. Let's figure out what to do with them. And then in the meantime, let's also practice our craft.
Love it. I
Because
love
I
it.
still have to do that. And I've been doing this a little while.
And that's one of the things that I really appreciate you because one, I am very big on professional development. Like I love going to conferences and just continuing to learn and things of that. Now I'm not going back to college. I'm just not. But but I'll go to a conference, I'll get a certification, like do all of those things, right? And so when I watch you and you're like, oh, I did this, oh, I learned this, oh, I'm learning screenwriting, like, I'm like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
she's just doing all the
It's
things. I
really hard.
love that.
Yeah,
It's hard, but it again makes you a better writer. It helps you
it does.
to hone in on your craft. And so, yeah, I love that you said that. I absolutely love it. Kelda, we want to support you. We want to thank you for being on the podcast and allowing us to get to know you better, allowing the world to see the you that I know.
Great.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the
Yes.
podcast.
Thank you
Can't wait
so
to see what you
much.
do next.
Thank you so, so much.
You're so welcome.
I don't just help people write books, I help you build something that works for you long after the book is done. Because your book should open doors, to create opportunities, position you as the authority you already are. That's the difference between just being an author and being intentional about what your book creates. If you're ready to do more than just published, if you're ready to build something that aligns with your purpose and your vision, visit my website and let's take a look at how we can work together. Don't just write a book, leave a legacy.
Thank you for spending this time with me on the Behind the Spine podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow writer who needs the encouragement. For more support, resources, and ways to work together, visit theintentionalauthor.com and connect with me on social. Remember, your story matters, your voice is needed, and your book deserves to be written. Until next time, stay intentional and keep writing.